Francis, 30 states have been highlighted by the federal government, the Meteorological Agency of Nigeria, to consider what they would do to avert floods coming in this year's rainy season, which has already started. I think in the last 2 days, it has rained literally back to back. There was rainfall yesterday and the day before here in Akwa Ibom State, and we're already seeing the floods already building up. But now, ahead of the rainy season, states have commenced measures to arrest the flooding expected to inundate about 1,249 communities in 176 local governments across 30 states. And of course, the Federal Capital Territory is not left out in that particular crisis that will be coming and which has started in some places. Now, part of the things that we see here, the measures that we are seeing is public enlightenment campaigns and what some of the states are doing. We've also seen dredging of water channels and relocating communities on riverbanks and floodplains. These are some things that some states have already started doing to reduce what the casualty rate will be like when the rains actually start more seriously. Now, we see that yesterday, which was Thursday, the federal government announced that the states would witness heavy flooding between April and November. The peak of rains are about to start. Now, the Minister of Water Resources and Sanitation, Professor Joseph Uzef, disclosed this at the unveiling of the 2025 annual flood outlook by the Nigerian Hydrological Services Agency in Abuja. Now, we're seeing high flood risk states as Abia, we see Adamawa, Akwa Ibom, Anambra, Bauchi. Bayelsa is also prone, Benue, Borno, Cross River States, Delta, Ebonyi, Edo, Gombe, Imo, Jigawa. These are high-risk flood, high flood risk state. Kebbi State is also among Kogi State. Like as I'm saying this, I'm remembering visuals of the flood situation from the past years. Actually coming to my mind. Kwara, Lagos, of course, Nasarawa, Niger, Ogun, Ondo, Oshun, Oyo, Rivers, Sokoto, Taraba, Yobe, Zamfara, and the FCT are the 30 states that are high flood risk states. I can't know off the top of my head the 6 that are safe. I think they should do a special Yam Festival Thanksgiving, kind of. But of course, these concerns are being raised with regards to flood, which is one of the devastating natural disasters that Nigeria suffers. Would I say thankfully, or I don't know, but I mean, when you categorize the kinds of natural disasters the rest of the world suffers, flooding is our own issue, of which there is a lot of infrastructure that can put in place that can mitigate the level of destruction that comes with these floodings.
Well, one thing that Nigerian state governors have not really done well over time has been not being able to be proactive in preparing for the flooding season or the rainy season, and of course not taking adequate measures to prepare ahead of time in terms of moving people from the flood-prone areas to areas where you can be a lot more safer when the rain comes or when the flood comes. And that's something that different state governments and of course have to partner with the federal government. See, it's not enough for NIMET to issue warnings. When this warning comes, how are we utilizing the proactive warning signals that have been given? And that's not limited to state governors or state leadership. What are we as Nigerians also doing? You know that, for instance, last year, you escaped the floods by the whiskers just because, it didn't get really close to your house, or it got close but didn't get to your house. What exactly are you doing this time around that you're told, okay, this year's raining season might be a lot more intensive, and so there's a possibility of, the flood water increasing past this location. People just get stuck and stay stuck until they just wake up one morning and their houses have been overtaken by flood water and they can no longer dwell in those places before we start looking for an alternative. I think one of the things that we need to do as a people is to be conscious of, where our environment is, the way our environment is. When it rains, if there is a flood, how are we going to be affected? And if that is the case, what alternative plans do we have? How do we begin to move our things to different locations prior to this incident happening? And then, of course, in order to mitigate the level of impact this would have. I know that people who still have not, recovered from the 2022 flood that happened in Nigeria. I know there are people who still have not recovered from the 2023 flood. But of course, we continue to make the same mistakes. So it's one thing that the warning are coming, but one appeal I'd like to give to Nigerians and every other person around the world watching us this morning is that when you get information about natural disasters or natural occurrences, as the case may be, utilize that information. Take a walk and listen to your environment, know your environment, judge from antecedents, past experiences, past occurrences, and be able to take proactive measures. We don't want to all wake up and be drowned or trying to survive and trying to, reach for breath when we could have taken those steps long before the incident happened. I mean, it's also a good day to commend the efforts of the Nigerian Meteorological Agency. They've tried in giving those warning signals and weather predictions every now and then. It is left for us to utilize these things for our own good.
It's definitely for us to utilize this information. And just as Francis has said, maybe some states are even a little too late in trying to prepare for the floods because, Francis, I'm going around you. I think we were having this conversation on our way to work yesterday. I'm going around you and I'm seeing some of our gutters filled with filth. What is the Ministry of Works doing? This has nothing to do with the governor. There is someone who is a commissioner for works. There are people that are permanent secretaries. There are people who work within those, there are people who work within those ministries who plied these roads. Why don't you come back with an assessment report, during the dry season that says, hey, look, we have XYZ streets in town that need to be excavated before the rains start coming. At least, if most of these gutters are cleaned before the rains come, the water will have, a path to flow and empty itself in some of the, big drainage that the Akwa Ibom state government has done, subsequent administration. At least the state, I'm using Akwa Ibom state, which is also highlighted here as a high flood risk state. The state has tried to a large extent to actually build drainage systems around the state that can cater to our flood problems. So why are the inter-road gutters not taken care of? Do we need the governor to come and give an executive standing order for that to be taken off? The initiative of the Commissioner of Works, an initiative to be taken by those in the Ministry of Works, environmental, all of those agencies that are involved with keeping our environment well. We are talking of unemployment for our youth. There are young people that you can pay daily 5,000 or 10,000 naira for a day's job. Let them enter these gutters and clean them out, and we know that once the rains come, this water will have a path and actually run. Must we wait for everything to be, we will now soon start calling President Bola Ahmed Tinubu for not doing well to handle the floods, when we have other people that are appointed into responsibilities. It's not about driving, cars that you bought with taxpayers' money, with security detail that should be busy doing something, in another part of the state securing us. Everybody, one person comes down working with 4 or 5 details. Get your foot down in the state and look at the things that you can do practicably. Not about, what's that thing Francis was calling this morning? Not about giving us legacy project. Just clean the streets. Clean out the gutters. Go to Akaitiam. I think I have the results of my fall on Akaitiam. This is it. This is the result. I fell on that road because of the flood. I think that was the first heavy rain this year, and I didn't know how flooded that road is. I just went there and saw myself on the floor because I was trying to escape and go home after waiting for the road to become flooded. So I have a scar on my body, my hands and my legs, So get into streets like that. People call on radio programs, they call on television and tell you that these things are bad. We're not even asking you to construct new roads. Take care of the ones that are available. Clean out the gutters. When we do environmental sanitation, the people living in this environment, community leaders, What is your investment toward preparing your community not to be drowned by the flood? I think we all have a responsibility and our part to play in all of this. Those of us that are drinking pure water, eating snacks and throwing out the sachets out the window, you are part of the problem. And if the flood carries you, you know, I think if you check my bag, you see a lot of, if I eat on the road, I try very hard to make sure that it ends up in my bag. We should become more responsible with ourselves, or else the flood is going to take us. And by the time you're blaming your governor, I'm very sure that the hilltop mansion is where it is, hilltop. So the rain will not get there. Remember that Akwa Ibom is a plain, it's mostly a plain land. So the water is just going to flow. But these are serious issues. 30 states, remember that we've been trying to pay, what's that word? What's the word? When you, it's the flip side of empowerment. Yeah. When things have gone wrong, you know, and you're trying to compensation. We've been trying to compensate the first round of people that were hit last year. We sat here on Spectrum Television, supported people in Maiduguri that the flood carried. This year, what are you going to do? Remember that the economy is something else. Do people really have to snuff out and be taking care of things that we would have taken care of? Right now, what is Maiduguri doing to make sure that it's not overtaken by flood? Have you cleaned out your gutters? Your young people that you can employ daily and pay, as I said, to clean out the gutters, you're waiting for them to jackpot. You know, some of them will go and use high sea and be trying to go to Europe. When you can give them a job, if it takes me 30 days, Francis, to clean out gutters statewide, and we get about 100 to 200 youths to do that, multiply an average of 5,000 naira times 30 days. How much has this person made for themselves in that month, which they can now invest in something else? Sometimes common sense isn't just common in Nigeria. But, I mean, I hope that we do not sit down here and report the casualties that will be taken. Billions of naira sunk in. People lose houses, lose real estate, lose companies, lose, you know, it's quite a number of things. One time we were reporting that pure water, a bag was 1,000 naira in some places, 750 in other places because of flood. We need to do, you know, better than this as a people.